everybody, I'm Glenn.
I'm Michael.
This is Legally Speaking, and today we are going to talk about business succession planning.
Sounds like a good topic.
I always think of Billy Madison, business ethics.
Yeah, I forget the line from that last part of that movie, but he's a good guy.
So business succession planning is a topic. There was a group locally that put on a seminar earlier this week. It's kind of an important topic, I think, for especially smaller communities of, how are we going to keep the businesses that we have going when the current owners decide that they're not going to be there anymore, or, when life circumstances happen that don't allow them to be there anymore. So I guess there's kind of two facets in my mind of business succession planning. That's, what we can plan for and, what we can't. Really, I guess. The unknown.
Yeah, and I think it goes the same for, your mom and pop type of business versus your more corporate type of business. Whether you're somewhere in the middle in your company or somewhere at the top, I think you need to make sure that somebody below you can step in and take over your job if you move up, and so on and so forth, up and down that ladder. So in, small town communities, you have a lot of small town shops, businesses. Those succession plans, I think, are some of the most important to keep the community thriving, to keep businesses in town. And there's a lot of people that baby boomers are coming up. They're getting to the retirement age if they haven't already, and I think there's going to be a question of what happens. What do I do with this baby that I've held on to for so many decades?
I know that specifically in our profession, there's a big push to have a plan for what's going to happen if I'm killed or if I become disabled, especially for attorneys that work on their own. I know that the Illinois Bar Association is pressing people to get plans for what's going to happen. If something happens, like if I die, how's the business going to continue? And our plan for that would be that your workload's going to increase dramatically, probably.
Right, right. And then I think at the same time, we have to plan for what happens if something happens to both of us, and we've got that in place now. We've contacted certain firms to say, okay, if scorched earth happens here at 306 Clinton Street, would you be willing to step in and take care of our clients? So I think that's something good, not just for the legal practice, but for everything in life. So, like Blint said, you can plan for things that are going to happen inevitably. If you plan on retiring, if you plan on taking a long vacation or something to that effect, but the unexpected disability, the unexpected death, the unexpected family emergency, I think those are the things that you really can't plan for. You can just try to have things in place now that they'll transition smoothly in the future.
We've seen unfortunate situations happen. I've seen at least probably 4 that I can think of off the top of my head when somebody in our profession passed away unexpectedly or something like that. And there's work that's ongoing, and that's not unique to our business. There's a lot of businesses that are like that, but there's client files, there's court hearings, there's some attorneys that keep estate planning documents and what happens to all that, and who's vested with authority to do that. And in some cases, when there wasn't a plan, it was a total mess, and I think that's the case a lot of times when there's not a plan. But also, we are seeing now that there's a generation of people in our profession, and every profession, I'm sure, that are getting to retirement age and maybe haven't given a lot of thought to how am I gonna get out of this? I mean, am I gonna wind it down and shut the door? Am I going to sell it? If I'm gonna sell it, there's issues with valuation. There's issues with who's gonna buy it. Even within a company, if there is a valuation, then there's an agreement as to what the business is worth. How's that going to happen? I mean, is there a capability of one of the business owners to write a check and buy the other person out if something were to happen to them unexpectedly or expectedly? If not, how are you going to fund that? Are you going to get a loan? Do you have life insurance on that person? I mean, those are a lot of questions of how are you going to plan for those things, and how are you going to make sure that your business continues if that's what you want to have happen, or are you going to sell it, or are you going to close the door, and what are the steps that need to happen even to do that? I know that that's not even really a possibility in our business,
right?
To just walk away.
And I think it's important to understand the ownership structure of your current business, or what type of entity you are. I mean, there's different valuations and different ways to transfer businesses. If you're a sole proprietorship versus an LLC versus a corporation. So I think understanding how your business is incorporated at the current time is going to help you understand what the best way to transition that to next generation or a prospective buyer out there. And that has a lot to do with how you value that. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that have accounts receivable out there. I mean, is that something that you're going to hold on to, control, and when those payments come in, you want to be reimbursed for those services that you've already provided, or is that part of the sale of your practice, or is that part of the succession plan of whatever business you have? The life insurance policy on if you have multiple owners, again, understanding that ownership structure is very important. You want to make sure that in the event one of your partners passes away, that you can give plenty of consideration to the estate for the value of their interest in the business. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a good life insurance policy, whether that's payable to the business itself or payable directly to a spouse or another family member. I think it's probably important to understand what your business is worth now, and then reevaluate that every few years to make sure that you have plenty of insurance in place if that's something that you're going to put in as part of your succession plan.
I think that all starts at the beginning. If you're going into business with somebody else, you ought to have an agreement as to how you're going to operate the business, regardless of how that business is structured. I mean, if you just have a simple partnership, you still need to know, you probably don't want to go into business with that person's spouse if they die, I would guess. That's not a possibility in our business because you have to be a licensed attorney to be an owner of a law firm. But there's other issues. I mean, there's a lot of issues there, and it's just a matter of planning, I think, to make it a smooth and easy transition. They say that good fences make good neighbors, and I am a firm believer in that.
Yeah, and I think, whenever we look at, what happens with multi-owners, maybe there is a scenario where you want to have the spouse or the estate to have the first option to purchase. They don't have to, but at least they would have that option to come in and step into the shoes of the past business owner. A lot of these scenarios we're talking about death, but what about disability? I mean, you need to have something in your operating agreement or your business agreement that says in the event of disability, XYZ happens. So I think taking a step back and looking at the big picture of how your business is organized, what type of agreements you have in place now, really helps you plan for the future. So I think we're here happy, ready, willing to help you take a look at that if you think that you need to review it. It's definitely something that you don't want some business owner to pass away and then this staple in the community goes away forever because there's no plan in place.
And a lot of that comes in with preservation of assets for beneficiaries too. If you want the family business to stay in the family, there's probably some planning that needs to be done. There's a lot of generational family farm businesses out there right now that have estate tax issues potentially, just based on the value of what the business probably owns, and the business probably owns farm ground. So with that increase in value of the business asset, there's issues there that need to be dealt with and need to be planned. So we are available to help and would be happy to do so. We've got the
Bulls even the series last night. Yep.
They let the first one get away, but they got the second one back yesterday. They played well for the part of the game that I was able to stay awake for, which was not most of it.
Yeah, check this morning. We got the win. That's all that matters.
Yeah. We're a little earlier the next game, I think, so maybe I'll be able to stay awake for that one. But
Good. Cubs have started out okay. They've kind of hit a little bit of a lull here recently, but I think we've got probably the MVP and Rookie of the Year all in the same player. Suzuki, he's probably the best free agent signing on the offseason.
well, we've got couple weeks of sports to watch here, so we will see you next time, and appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
I haven't been able to watch the Cubs.